So over the past few weeks, a lot, and I mean a lot, of decoration parts for Ascension of Heaven have been dropping, and as good as they look, there's controversy, and so I want to give my thoughts on it. Now, before we continue, I just want to give this quick disclaimer. This video is going to be very opinionated, and I'm going to be directly speaking out against a lot of very popular opinions in this community right now, so I want you to remember that at the end of the day, these are just opinions. Just because you're right about something doesn't mean I'm wrong about something, and vice versa. So please go into this video understanding that this is not a black and white issue, and that there's nuance to this, and both of us could be right in this situation, both of us could be wrong. There's nuance to things, and so just please go into this video with an open mind. So what is the controversy with these Ascension to Heaven parts? Well, the big controversy that you mainly see on Twitter is that all of the parts look the same. Now, that statement may sound strange when you first hear it because, I mean, yeah, that's how theming works. You want the level to look the same the whole way through. But there's a bit more to it than you'd think. See, the thing about Ascension to Heaven is that it is long. It is like 5 minutes long, and when people say these parts look the same, they mean, like, they really look similar. Now, I do have to disagree with the people who say they literally are the same parts, because no, they're not. There are differences. But they are very similar, to the point where if you told me all this decoration was done by one creator, I would believe you. When I first saw the level, I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was actually really cool. I thought it meant that the theming was really solid, and I still do think it means the theming is really solid. I think this level is doing a good job at holding consistency across the parts and looking consistently good throughout. However, I'm not gonna lie, I do get the criticism, and there is some feedback I want to give here because there are some problems that I'm starting to see crop up. The first issue isn't even necessarily an issue yet. It's a hypothetical because not every part is actually finished yet. But the thing about a lot of these parts looking the same is if the whole level goes in this direction, where pretty much every part looks interchangeable, like they could have been made by the same creator, I could see that being an actual problem. Ascension to Heaven, as I mentioned, is around 5 minutes long, and so if every part looks the same, it's going to be hard for an individual part to stand out. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for the level to be as inconsistent as something like Limbo. I love Limbo, don't get me wrong, but some of the parts do feel like they're having a bit of an identity crisis. You have Jazor's part, which the majority of the community agrees is kind of out of place. I like it, but it does not fit with the rest of the level. And then you have another part where the community universally looks at it and goes, is that an Acheron reference? But at the same time, I don't want the level to just look the same the whole way through. I want there to be some middle ground here. If I could compare Ascension to Heaven to anything, I think I'd compare it to Freedom 08. In fact, now that I say that, Freedom 08 is actually probably the best example I could use here, because not only do they use the same artist's music in the same way, but they're both similar length XL levels, with Freedom 08 clocking in at around 4 minutes and 50 seconds. See, with Freedom 08, I can at least think of individual parts. Even though I don't even know who made what part in the level, I can think of distinct and differently designed parts. You have the slow-paced beginning that builds the atmosphere really well, and then later on in the level you have that really creative duel, which is immediately followed up by an insanely well-synced wave. And even just beyond that, you have stuff like this part, which I don't see a lot of people talking about, where it's like just a slowly descending minicube in sync with the piano of the song, and then suddenly the block design turns into the background design, which I think is really, really sick. That's not to say the level is super consistent the whole way through, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's got its own Jazor's part, so to speak. You have this part, which a lot of people talk about, a lot of people use it in thumbnails, and it is a completely different decoration style than the rest of the level. It completely changes up here, yet it doesn't feel out of place. It fits with the rest of the level. Everything I just said about Freedom 08 does not apply here. All the parts look good, and they thematically fit well with each other, but they're so similar that it's hard to distinguish between them. This level doesn't really have its Jazor's part. It doesn't have a part that people think of when they think of Ascension to Heaven. From my experience, the part people do think of when they think of Ascension to Heaven is the beginning of the level. Take it from personal experience, that is not what you want, because that doesn't mean they are thinking of the part because it's the most distinct. That means they're thinking of the part because it's the first thing you see in the level. And not helping with this is whenever anyone showcases their part for Ascension to Heaven, all of these previews follow pretty much the exact same format, to the point where I think a lot of Twitter jokes like this aren't riffing on the parts, they're riffing on the trailers for the parts. These revealed trailers pretty much follow the exact same format, to the point where I can describe it right now. First and foremost, you want to start with blurred and or slowed down footage of the part that comes before yours, with text on the top left saying how many objects are in your part, how much lag it gets, which usually says little to none, none, or average, and then under that you want to say how many groups your part used. After that, you show the part, and then you show it again slowed down. And that's the format of these. They're all basically formatted the same. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect any of these to have special editing in or put in different formats at all. It shouldn't have to have the format. It's just a video of what this person's part looks like. The problem is that it keeps the same format, but this format requires editing, which means they took the time to make a format. They just made all of the previews look identical to each other, which is a strange move. I think it would have honestly been better if it was just a raw upload of the part with nothing else. It's at a point where, honestly, I have more of an issues with the videos teasing the parts than I do with the parts themselves. Being honest, my biggest issue with a lot of these part trailers, if you want to call them anything, is the text they have that appears on the top left. It tells you nothing. Like, okay, the level has 13,000 objects and it has no lag. So you're telling me putting 13,000 objects into a 12-second part isn't going to cause any lag? No lag? According to what? You can't just say, this super high-detailed part doesn't lag, and not elaborate. It doesn't lag on what kind of hardware? It doesn't lag compared to what? What do you consider a high amount of lag? Especially considering some of these don't say little to none, some of them say stuff like medium or average. So tell me, what's the difference between average lag and no lag? Is no lag Castlemania while average lag is Bismarck? You tell me, because I have no idea. Obviously, these people are building the parts, so no shit their computer doesn't lag when they run it. But what about lower-end hardware? Like, am I going to be able to run Ascension to Heaven because I can run Castlemania? Probably not. I think what they should do is put this info dump in the description of the video instead of on the top left of the screen, because then they could actually put more valuable information there. Overall, this data dump that appears on the top left always leaves me with more questions than answers, like, oh, your part gets little to no lag. What CPU are you using? Because you claim to get little to no lag, but I don't know if that's good or bad, because depending on your CPU, that could actually be really good, but it could also mean nothing. Like, if you're running a Core i5, that's going to mean a lot to me, but if you're running a Core i9, that might not mean anything. Like, there are people whose GD benchmarks look like this. This is actually a real statistic on Space UK's new gaming PC that was built by FNMO4. I'm pretty sure Space UK will be able to run this level with no problems. But then you have my hardware, which is very low end. Will I be able to run this level? I have no idea, because I don't know where in between me and Space UK the hardware this part was built on falls. There is literally no way to gauge how optimized this part is. You may as well have just told me the object count and left it at that. Like, I look at a lot of these parts and I have to ask, if you played GD Benchmark, would your stats look like this, this, or this? And that is the ultimate problem I have with this statistic. Because my stats look like this, which are not very good, yet I can run Castlemania. I get plenty of frame drop, but I can run it. So with all of that being said, and all of my points being made, let me dial it back and give my thoughts. Do I think the parts in Ascension to Heaven are bad? No. Do I think they're too similar to each other? Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie. However, I don't think the parts are bad, and I definitely don't think that's the biggest issue here. the branding and the reveal for these parts is just sloppy. These are really sloppy trailers, and I'm not gonna lie, it would have been more effective to just upload raw footage of the part and call it a day. So either way, those are my thoughts on the Ascension to Heaven controversy. I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the description. Just let me know what you think. Remember, opinions are opinions. I will respect your opinions so long as you respect mine. But either way, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.